Hello and welcome to Girls Empowerment Group video for week 3. This week we're going to be talking about relationships and boundaries, and this week we're going to talk a little bit specifically about like dating and romantic relationships a bit, and next week we're going to focus more on like friendships and relationships with family. But today in our video we're going to talk specifically about boundaries and consent, which even though we're going to talk a little bit specifically about dating, it's important in all relationships with everybody in your life, basically. So take notes, whether you're interested in dating or not. It's all important today. Pay attention. So let's talk about boundaries. So basically, if you haven't heard the term like boundary in terms of like a relationship, you can think of like when you're in PE class or doing a sport, sometimes a ball will go out of bounds, which means it's going out of the boundary line of the field or the court that you're in, basically, right? And so in our relationships and our lives, we can set little boundary lines for ourselves to protect ourselves. Basically, the boundary lines say, like, within this court or this field of my relationships, these are all things that I'm okay with and comfortable with. And outside of the lines are things that I'm not okay with, not comfortable with. So setting boundaries so people don't go out of bounds too much. Okay, so there's basically like physical boundaries and emotional boundaries. Physical boundaries are basically like with each person in your life thinking about what kind of like touch are you okay with them. Because it totally depends on the person and how much you trust them and how long you've known them and what kind of touch you're okay with in general. Some people just don't like to be like hugged or touched at all, and some people are really huggy and cuddly. So it totally depends on you. So some questions you might ask is like, are you okay with hugging your best friend or roughhousing with them? Are you okay with doing that with your sibling, with your classmate, right? Maybe yes, maybe no to some of those. And with like dating, are you okay with kissing or holding someone's hand? Are you okay with doing that at school and in public? Are you just okay with doing that in private? Questions to ask yourself. And so with each person in our life, we're going to have totally different ideas of what we're okay with and what we're not. Like, you know, if you're okay with kissing your boyfriend, you might not want to kiss your best friend or your mom. You know, or if you're okay with roughhousing with your friend, but your sibling roughhouses way too hard, set those boundaries, right? Figure out what you're comfortable with and not comfortable with. And it's totally normal too, especially with meeting new people and like especially with dating and you're trying out new things. You might not know what you're comfortable with yet, and you kind of just have to like test the waters, see how you feel, and adjust your boundaries as needed. Okay, so let's talk about emotional boundaries a little bit. So emotional boundaries are basically like setting limits for everything else in your relationships besides physical things. So basically it's like how and when you're okay with talking to someone and what you're okay with sharing with certain people, like how much you trust them. So some questions to think about as examples is like, how late are you okay with texting someone? With your best friend, you might be okay texting until like 10 p.m. With your new friend or your new acquaintance, you might be like, I don't even want to give them my phone number, or you might give them your phone number but not always text them back immediately. It's called setting boundaries. It's awesome. Also thinking about which of your friends are you okay sharing secrets with, or like if you have a crush on someone, are you gonna share it with your best friend, with all your friends, with your whole school, or are you gonna tell no one? Are you gonna like tell your mom or your siblings? It's up to you. That's called setting boundaries, is by deciding who you're gonna share that with or who you trust that with. And also thinking about which adults in your life do you like trust sharing certain things with, like getting advice about drama at school or dealing with other difficult personal things going on in your life, or getting advice about dating from. It's important to ask, you know, who do you trust? And it is important to find an adult who you trust to get advice from. So it's important to think about who you trust, and you might go to different adults for advice on different things, and that's totally normal too. So again, with emotional boundaries, you kind of just have to trust your gut feeling, thinking about how much you trust someone, and sometimes you have to just test the waters, share something vulnerable with someone, see how it goes, and sometimes we do get hurt and realize we can't trust someone. Lesson learned, create stricter boundaries with that person, or maybe distance yourself from them or have a conversation about it. And yeah, and we move on. Okay, so it's really important to set boundaries and be clear about what we're okay with and not okay with as we're going through life with romantic relationships or with friendships or with anyone really. Because otherwise people will assume what we're okay with and what we're not. And sometimes it can feel awkward setting boundaries, but it's really important. And so on Thursday in our meeting, we'll talk about that more in depth. And we're going to talk a little bit about consent, because consent is basically how you communicate boundaries. So you may have heard the term consent before as like a consent form, which is like a permission slip, a paper you send home to your parents to give permission for you to go on like a field trip or something. So consent is basically that, like giving permission to do something, or not giving permission to do something, or asking permission to do something. So yeah, so some examples how to ask permission or to ask for someone's boundaries might be asking a new friend if they like hugs or not. You might find out that they don't like hugs. And then you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I didn't hug you and make you really uncomfortable, right? Great. Avoided. Awesome. Or asking, a new friend if they're okay with talking on the phone rather than texting. Some people don't like talking on the phone. Good to know. Some people love talking on the phone. Also great to know. Or if you're on a first date, asking the person you're on a date with if they're okay with kissing on the first date. Because, if you just go ahead and kiss them, they might feel really uncomfortable and awkward. And if they just say no, or if they say yes, you may have avoided an awkward situation. And that's great. And everyone's comfortable. And same thing. Hopefully your friends and your family are asking before they do things with you as well, whether it's physical or emotional, right? Or at least checking in with you. So some examples about giving consent might be if your friend asks if they can hug you and you say, yes, I'd love a hug. Or if your date asks, can I kiss you at the end of the date? And you say, yeah, I'd love a kiss. But you also have the option to say no whenever someone asks. Okay? So if you're like, I think that would make me uncomfortable, you can just say no, thank you. Crisis averted. And also it's normal too if you like give consent for something, like say you're like, sure new friend, I'd love a hug, and then they're hugging you and they're hugging you for like too long and it's just like awkward and making you uncomfortable. It's okay to just be like, thanks for the hug, okay, I'm done now. No thank you, I'm over it. And they should just be like, okay, that's fine, and stop hugging you, right? So yeah, so it's okay to change your mind too and to say no, which can be kind of hard as a young woman or a girl to say no. But it's really important to be able to say no because, that's setting your boundaries and keeping yourself safe, right? 'Cause sometimes when we say no, we feel like we're like inconveniencing people. But the truth is, like, we're not. Like, if someone's asking for a hug and you say no, it's not like they're losing anything or it's the end of the world if they don't get a hug from you. Or if you say no to a kiss, it's like, they can live without a kiss, right? Like, that's just an extra nice thing for them. It's not like, it's not a big deal. So it's okay to say no. And it's really, really important if you have friends or family or a romantic partner who is not respecting your no's, or when you change your mind and want to talk about boundaries, to talk with them about it or distance yourself from them if they're just not respecting your boundaries or asking for consent, or get advice from a trusted adult in your life on how to navigate that, because it's really, really important that we have friendships and relationships with people who respect our boundaries and ask for consent. And it's important that you do that too in your relationships. It can take time to figure out how to do it, but it's really important. Okay, so that's on boundaries and consent. Now I'm going to go over quickly our little activity for the week. Okay, so for our activity this week is making a collage about your dream partner, or if you don't want to do it about your dream partner, you can make it like your dream best friend, which is also awesome too. But think about an ideal relationship, basically. And to do a collage, you could do like the classic collage where you like cut up magazines, like pictures and words from magazines or newspapers and paste them onto a page. Or you can just draw things or write things, or like I did mine on the computer and like Googled for images and pasted them into a Microsoft Word document. And I can put in the description some other ideas for doing it digitally if you want to do that. Whatever way you like, it's all good and awesome. So basically with this, I want you to just think about like, what would your dream person or your dream relationship look like, right? And you can add some things, especially if you're doing it about a romantic partner, like what they might look like, what gender they might have, if you know if you're attracted to boys or girls or both, or if you don't know, you can make it gender neutral. I wasn't very specific about physical stuff or gender on mine. But most importantly, think about like what interests would you want your partner to have? How would you like them to communicate with you? What kinds of things would you want to do together? Whether it's physical or like activities you do together. And what kind of values do they have? Okay. And I'll share mine to give you an idea of what answering those questions might look like. So here I've got a little picture of someone hiking because I don't want a partner who likes being outdoors and likes nature and like going for walks and hikes. So it's like an interest that they have. I want someone who makes me laugh and we have a similar sense of humor and like to like send each other funny things. That's really important to me. I want someone who likes listening to music. I like listening to music and like sharing that interest. This, I don't know if you can see it. It's like two people talking to each other. I want someone who is a great listener and I feel like I can trust and share anything with them without judgment, and we can like have open conversations about boundaries and consent. That's really important to me. This little thing says equal. I want someone who, like, in our relationship, we see each other as equals. That's really important. This, I want them to care about social issues as well, because that's important in relationships too. They respect me as well as other people in the world. This little camera represents, like, I want someone to, like, make memories with and go on, like, fun adventures and, like, cute dates with. And yeah. And those are just people. Stock photo of people. This kind of represents, like, I want someone who gets along well with my family and friends, and someone who my family and friends really like too. That's really important to me. And then this last one just says, "You are beautiful," and has a little heart emoji. I'd like a partner who, like, can give me compliments and just, like, appreciates me for who I am, right? Because I don't want a partner who's just, like, meh about me, right? Like, I want someone who's like, "You're awesome and I love being in a relationship with you." Amazing concept. Okay, so yeah, so those are my examples. I hope this inspires you a little bit. So yeah, so just making a collage, thinking about what you would want in a relationship or in a partner. And yeah, and so on Thursday we'll talk more about how to set boundaries and ask for consent, and also talk about what a happy, healthy relationship looks like, and look at your collages and talk about that to get ideas. So yeah, thanks for watching.